Welcome to the first session of the subject in this semester, circuit theory. In the yesterday's live session, I tried my level best to introduce to you about the general contents of the syllabus. From today onwards, we shall try to go through the actual contents beginning with the first module, and as explained in yesterday's session, it would be an attempt to deal with the contents in the what we can say most simple manner. I will create a Google Classroom, upload the material there. I will supply material on the group. So abundant contents are available. Books are available. Nowadays books are not purchased by you, even not read by you. Google material, everything is available. This is a classical, completely matured subject with no significant changes over a century. Every engineering student, it is very basic, especially for electrical and electronics engineering students. Its crux, it must be known. It is a what we can say very fundamental, classical and most important subject, and everything must be very clear to the students, and I will try my level best to move from simplicity and I will increase the complexity slowly. This subject deals with basic electrical engineering terms, that is electric charge, I repeat, electric charge, electric voltage, electric current, resistor, capacitor and inductor. Q, V, I, R, C and L, and various, that is concept of electric charge, electric voltage, electric current and the components of resistor, capacitor and inductor. I presume zero background and will try to explain to you every content in most simple manner. Also, we will not go into deep questioning that may lead to confusion. Say for example, what is electric charge? What is electric charge is not an easy thing to be answered. Why I am telling you all these things in the beginning? The attempt is not to create confusion, but the attempt is to make you aware about the fundamentals in the sense that you must know what is that which you cannot think beyond a point. Everybody must be aware of what it is which one cannot think beyond a point, and it is expected that those things should be presumed. If we go on questioning everything, then we will end up in an, what I say, listen very carefully, intellectual black hole. What is a black hole? Heavy density, infinite density. Like that we will end up, we don't want to end up. Then should it be too casual that we aim to be in zero gravity space? That is not also. Listen very carefully. The optimum operating point, maybe in the 12th or so, or in some physics, for transistor you must have read the concept of operating point. Similarly, for an engineering student, electronics engineering student, it is applicable for all. An optimum operating point is important, where I should try to analyze the things, not assume or mug up everything, and try to make my perception. but that means I must have analytical mindset, not only assuming and making up. That is not engineering. But that analytical mindset also needs to be contained somewhere. That analytical mindset also needs to be contained somewhere, because if you go on thinking deep, very deep, then you are likely to enter into an intellectual black hole. So we have been using the electrical engineering terms quite frequently, but if a question is asked, what is electric charge? If a question is asked, what is electric charge? Remember that the electricity which is used for applications and the static electricity in the clouds, lightning, whether these were same or different were not known. So Benjamin Franklin did an experiment that you might be aware of. So going in a deeper perspective, the question is, what is electric charge? Can anybody answer? Now, it is not, it is a recorded version. So when I ask a question, there is no need for me to pause for the answer. Students who want to think should pause the video, think of an answer, then start the video and watch whether the answer is correct or not. So similarly, ask a question now and you can pause the video, think for the answer, resume the video, verify the answer, or if you are unable to answer, then try to get the answer known. So the question is, what is electric charge? You can pause. Then the answer is, the question what is electric charge is not so easy to answer. It is something which we go deeper and we go to charged particles, protons and electrons. Then if we further question, what will conclusively prove that there are only two types of electric charges? Listen, very important question. What will conclusively prove that there are only two types of electric charges? When I say proving only two, we must be able to conclusively prove that third type of charge does not exist. And that is something which cannot be answered by an analytical mind. That can't be answered so easily. So, even though we are science and engineering students, if ever you want to be a normal student, you have to see, engineering education is job-oriented education. I am very much sure that none of you have taken admission to engineering college to be Einstein. If it happens, so it is bonus. Means we have to be moderate in thinking. So now listen carefully. This was essential to create a background. Now I will hit the crux. Electric charge, two types of electric charges. Then one will say positive and negative. That is not the reasoning. Then there can be three types of charges. You could have named them as A, B and C. Type A behaves something with type B. Type B behaves something with type C, like that. So all this is assumption, or we call it postulates. What is a postulate? Some set of assumptions coupled with some set of rules. And based on those postulates, you predict something and you verify that prediction with experimentation. If experimentation verifies, confirms your prediction, then it is said that the postulate is validated. Otherwise, the postulate is wrong and you have to rework. It may happen so that there may not be experimental setup to verify. Einstein's statement in listen very carefully, this is very important. Einstein's statement in 1905 that the light rays bend near heavy mass. So that statement could not be proved because such heavy mass bending is not large, very small. Such heavy mass so that the bending is observable was not there, was not available. It was sun, and then you can search it later on. And in 1919, at the time of total solar eclipse, the Einstein's postulate was validated after 14 years. So he stated something which required 14 years of waiting period to get validation. Because of the want of time, I could not explain that in detail. So what I say is, electric charge is an assumption. Electric charge is an assumption. It is something, because if I go on, then then what? Charge is comprised of what? Charge is comprised of electrons. Then electron possesses charge means what? मराठीत सांगतो, इलेक्ट्रॉनवर निगेटिव्ह चार्ज आहे 1.6 into 10 to minus 19 coulombs. म्हणजे काय आहे? That is something which for which there is no answer. It is some phenomenon. चार्ज ही एक संकल्पना आहे. नेमकं काय आहे? नेमकं चार्ज म्हणजे काय? इलेक्ट्रॉनवर एक प्रकारचा चार्ज आहे, प्रोटॉनवर दुसऱ्या प्रकारचा चार्ज आहे. I explain in English. Electron is having something which I call as negative charge. Proton is having something which I call as positive charge. That's all. That is the end. Then the Coulomb's law. Charges try to repel each other. Charges try to reduce their density and so on. Then voltage, all these things. If that discussion is to be done in detail, we can't do it in stipulated lecture hours. Sometime as a technical hobby we may elaborate. But for today now, so charge is something that discussion will not be required right now. It will be required when capacitor comes. Right now what is required is voltage, electric voltage, electric potential. What is electric potential is, or again it's an assumption, is not so easy to understand. Electric voltage is equal to water level. Electric charge is equal to water, and electric current is equal to water flow. These three are the phenomena. So by all logics, we may say, we may assume. What I say? I have explained the background where I clearly told that deeper analysis right now is not required. We should not assume and mug up everything. At the same time, we should not analyze everything and lose ourselves in that analysis. We should have an optimal balance, a proper operating point. So electric voltage is what everybody knows, and we also know a battery somehow every one of you is having some pseudo knowledge of electric voltage. What we mean by pseudo means, and such kind of pseudo understanding is also very much essential for a normal person. If you are abnormal in either sense, too intelligent or too dull, both are extremities. But for a normal person, pseudo understanding means whether you understand everything which you come across, then you are an exceptionally, what we can say, competent intellect. If you are able to understand everything, then you are an exceptionally genius entity. If you are not able to understand everything, then there is a question on your competence. And for a normal person, he understands something he doesn't understand. That's fine, that's essential characteristic of a normal person. In Walchand College, most of the students are extremely intelligent compared to their peers elsewhere. But amongst themselves also, there is a distribution, and most of the students are very good. But very good doesn't mean that everybody understands everything. That is impossible. Then, what is pseudo understanding? Pseudo understanding is something about which I should be able to carry an appropriate perception. I explain in Marathi and again in English. व्होल्टेज म्हणजे काय हे जरी मला नेमकं कळलं नाही, तरी अशी बॅटरी आणि इथं 2 व्होल्ट्स असा सिम्बॉल आल्यानंतर इफ म्हणजे ही डायग्रॅम मी बघितल्यानंतर माझ्या मनामध्ये याचं काहीतरी संकल्पचित्र तयार होतं आणि अशा आणखी काही डायग्रॅम्स बघितल्यानंतर माझ्या मनामध्ये वेगवेगळे संकल्पचित्र तयार होतात आणि त्या एकमेकांना जोडल्यानंतर पुन्हा माझ्या मनामध्ये काहीतरी संकल्पचित्र तयार होतं आणि ते जर बरोबर असेल म्हणजे काही गोष्टीचं माझं आकलन अपुरं असलं तरी अशा बऱ्याच गोष्टींच्या अपुऱ्या जुजबी आकलनावर आधारित मी कन्क्लुजन काढू शकत असेल तर ते नॉर्मल माणसाच्या दृष्टीने पुरेसं आहे. सो अगेन रिपीट, pseudo understanding means when such figure is put before you there must be some kind of perception within you, and if that perception is enough to take the things further, match it with some other perception and get some appropriate result which can be verified with experimentation, then that is very enough perception. There is no need for everybody to understand everything. There is no need for everybody to understand everything in a deeper way. It is enough that you carry a moderate perception. Means even though you have not understood it, still if you are able to deal with it, it is said that you have got a pseudo perception. Likewise, you have got everybody has got a good pseudo perception of what is electric voltage, what is electric current and Ohm's law. So the moment at which I draw this diagram, because this we are dealing in the first chapter, we will finish the very few simple concepts very quickly. So, and this is say, I will make it have 10 volts, just I should get some numbers, and 5 ohm. So when I take a battery, take a voltage source, battery, you are familiar with. I take a voltage source of 10 volt, I connect a raised to the 5 ohm. Then by Ohm's law, a current of 2 amperes will flow through the circuit. That everybody of you. That is quite simple statement. There is nothing new, no Einstein, no rocket science here. Now I ask a further question. What will happen if I have got a, so here I say that we go from simplicity to complexity step by step. I have 10 volt voltage source and I short circuit that. So resistance is 0. I short circuit the voltage source with a 0 ohm resistance. The question is, find out what is the current. You can take a pause, calculate and resume the video. So obviously I is equal to V upon R. In this case V is 10 volts and R is 0. So I will be infinite. Now it is at some other occasion we shall discuss 0 and infinity. Right now that much detailed discussion not required. Very briefly I can say 0 you have learned in your childhood and infinity you have learned in late high school or early junior college days. Whether infinity is unique and can it be attained? The question is, I have simple questions. Two simple, detailed we can discuss at some later time. The question is, this is very important. Whether infinity is a unique entity and is it attainable? Obviously, you will answer. Those who want to answer on their own can take a pause, think of the answer and then watch. It's not unique. So as it's not unique, it can't be attained. Then whether 0 is also unique and attainable? And I think that this is something where there is a need to understand. Many students, if you take a survey, many think that yes, infinity is not unique and it can't be attained. Whereas many, and it is a correct assumption, correct notion. Whereas many further feel that 0 is unique and it can't be attained. It can be attained. Majority of the students correctly feel that infinity is non-unique and non-attainable, and they carry a wrong perception about 0 as if it is unique and attainable. It is equally non-unique and non-attainable. Listen very carefully. Like infinity, 0 is also non-unique and non-attainable, and to be very precise, we will elaborate it in detail later, but to be very precise, at least carry a perception, a perfect assumption also you can take it as a good thumb rule. You can take it as a good thumb rule. A good thumb rule is listen very carefully. Listen, it's very important, it's thumb rule. I'm not claiming to be very scientific, and maybe scientifically this may be an inappropriate, not standard statement. Listen very carefully, that any entity, any parameter, any physical entity, any parameter in a real physical system which is in the denominator of something can never become zero. Listen very carefully. Any physical quantity which happens to be in the denominator of an equation can never become zero. So, current means resistance is a physical quantity, physical parameter, real parameter. So, current is equal to voltage upon resistance. As resistance happens to be in the denominator, it cannot be zero. It would be tending to zero. Zero is a non-attainable, non-unique thing. So, it means rather I don't know, symbol 0 you jumble with natural number 0. Symbol 0 which you jumble with natural number 0. Natural numbers are countable. So in that 0 is having a substantial clear meaning, whereas infinity is something which is non-unique. So something can tend to infinity but something can't become infinity. Something can tend to infinity but something can't become infinity. Like that, like infinity, there should be some other symbol. There should be some other symbol that is infinitesimal. Like infinity, there should be another symbol indicating infinitesimal. Actually, I don't know, after what I am telling today may be reality after a few years. Let us say some epsilon, like infinity and infinitesimal. Infinity and infinitesimal. So 1 upon infinity is infinitesimal, not 0. So that 0, since you jumble with this which you have learnt in natural numbers in your childhood days, that this is something which exists, you feel. This is something which is unique, you feel. So 1 upon infinity is infinitesimal, is not unique. Therefore, resistance cannot become, or to be very precise, any physical quantity cannot become either infinite or 0 or infinitesimal, we can say. It can tend on both sides. So in that situation, even if I short, there will be some very small resistance and very high current will flow. So for 10 volt voltage source, shorting a 10 volt voltage source will lead to shorting a 10 volt voltage source will lead to very heavy current. Current will not be infinite. So that is something which we should be quite aware of. In the further discussion, in the subject ideal voltage source, practical voltage source, all that we will discuss. But this is something which everybody must carry in your mind, which you should emboss it on your intellectual plane, that no physical parameter in the world can become infinite, it will tame, it can't become zero, it will be very small, negligibly small. In something can become substantially large or negligibly small, and substantially large into negligibly small can be anything. This is very important. Sometime we will deal with it. Okay. So voltage source, resistance, current. These are all simple things. So for time being, we work with very simple examples. Kirchhoff's law, you know, there is no need to spend our time on that. Kirchhoff's, it's high school scholarship level problem on Kirchhoff's laws. I will just wind up with one example each. Kirchhoff's node law or Kirchhoff's current law states that then we have a battery, we have resistance, and we connect them. These we assume to be superconductors. In fact, they are not, but their resistance is negligibly small compared to this, so there is no need for us to take that in calculations. So this point, the 2 points, we bring a battery cell, point A and point B. We have a resistance, point C and point B. We connect A to C with a wire, we connect B to D with a wire, and we say that as if these are same points, because we presume that it's a fact that their resistance is negligible, so we consider that these are superconductors which do not exist. Okay. So with this now we proceed with Kirchhoff's laws. So what Kirchhoff's law states, Kirchhoff's node law, scientific definition, algebraic sum of all currents at a node is zero. It's again with zero. In addition and multiplication there is a complete different treatment. So right now you don't jumble with that infinitesimal. So you just take it with you for the situation where something happens to be in the denominator, it can't reach zero, we can say. Means like infinity is something which can never be reached, like that infinitesimal or zero can also be reached in that context. Here when we talk of Kirchhoff's law, it states that algebraic sum of currents at a node is zero. That is standard definition, but that is something which is not so easy to work with, and some unnecessary we can get confused. So a practical definition, currents incoming equal to currents outgoing. At any node, currents incoming equal to currents outgoing. So while calculating currents, we assume any direction, and if the answer is positive, our direction assumption is correct. If answer is negative, the computed current flows in reverse direction. We will take an example and tell it very clearly. So while calculating currents in an electric circuit consisting of voltage source and resistance, right now the current source is there in our syllabus, but as far as possible, as long as there is no need, I will not mention it, because voltage source is available with us on which we can work very easily. We will explain it later on, but right now, so as to make the thing simpler, let us be as simple as possible. So Kirchhoff's node law or Kirchhoff's current law, called as KCL. KCL states that algebraic sum is zero, algebraic sum of currents at a node is zero, but we don't use the definition. Simple definition we use, currents incoming equal to currents outgoing at any node. That's number one. And Kirchhoff's mesh law or Kirchhoff's voltage law, which we says KVL, states that it states that again the voltages, sum of voltages in a loop is 0. Current law operates at a node and voltage law operates in a loop or mesh. The algebraic sum of voltages over a loop is 0, but that is again standard and classical. Working definition is voltage source equal to voltage drop. Voltage source is battery, voltage drop takes place across the resistance based on I into R and in the direction of current flow. So KCL, currents incoming equal to currents outgoing. KVL, voltage KCL is at a node, at a point, and KVL it is at a loop. So KCL, currents incoming equal to currents outgoing. KVL, voltage source equal to voltage drop. We will take one example. And I think that is enough for KCL KVL. No need to what we can say, repeat unnecessarily on simple things. So very simple example we take. This is very simple circuit I have drawn. Two batteries are there, two voltage sources. One is of 10 volts, one is of 4 volts, and there are three resistances drawn in the way shown. Ten volt, 10 ohm, 10 ohm. This 2 ohm resistance and current in this resistance is to be found out. Now, I think this is point A. By applying KCL at point A, and KVL in either this or this loop, you can very easily find out the current which is asked. So how do we apply? So there will be some current through this, which I will call as I1. Then I can assume any direction. This is I1. This is, or right now, the question I don't put a symbol here. Find out, the question is, find out current in 2 ohm resistor. Is the question which I am solving by KCL KVL. It is just simple one, even though actually it was not required, but since it's a first lecture, so you should feel somewhat comfortable. I am taking that example, but we will not be spending unnecessary time on this. Then immediately we will go for other theorems, Thevenin's theorem, Norton's theorem, superposition theorem. So I will just proceed very quickly. This I can assume as I1. Then we have liberty, we can assume this as I2. This as I2. So I1, I2. So what is this current? I1 plus I2. So this would be I1 plus I2. So what I am required to do, if I am able to compute I1 and I2 by using KCL KVL, the answer is no. So how I can find out I1, the currents I1 and I2? Number one, there is no need to apply now KCL. Why? because KCL we applied here itself. Assumed I1, assumed I2. Let this current be I1, let this current be I2. Then by KCL, current incoming is I1, current incoming is I2 for this point A. So this I have assumed, this also assumed. I am not sure. I may be wrong. So this is I1, this is I2, this is I1 plus I2. That is, so KCL is done. Then once I have applied KCL, I have to apply KVL in loop 1 and loop 2. In loop 1 and loop 2. How I can apply KVL in loop 1? In loop 1, what is voltage source? 10 volt. Voltage source equal to voltage drop. What is voltage drop across this? What is voltage drop across this resistance? 10 I1. What is voltage drop across this resistance? 2 into bracket I1 plus I2. What is voltage drop across this resistance? 10 I2. So these are voltage drops. So applying KVL for loop 1. Applying KVL for loop 1, what I get? 10 volt equal to 10 I1 plus 2 into bracket I1 plus I2. 10 volt equal to 10 I1 plus 2 into this. So this I can simplify. 10 is equal to 12 I1 plus 2 I2. This is equation 1. Applying KVL at second loop, 4 is equal to 10 I2 plus 2 into bracket I1 plus I2. So 4 is equal to 2 I1 plus 12 I2. 2 I1 plus 12 I2. So this is equation 2. Now I think it's quite simple. Equation 2. So this 1 and this 2. So 1 I can further simplify. 5 is equal to 6 I1 plus I2. This also I can simplify if I want. 2 is equal to I1 plus 6 I2. Then somehow I can go either way, multiplying this by minus 6, multiplying this by minus 6. What I get? Minus 12 is equal to minus 6 I1 plus, minus 36 I2. Adding these two, what I get? Minus 7 is equal to minus 35 I2. So that gives me, what I get? Add I2 2 is equal to I1 plus 6 I2 minus 12 is equal to, am I correct? Just verify. 10 is equal to 10 I1 plus 2 into bracket I1 plus I2. 4 is equal to 10 I2 plus 2 I1 plus 2 into I1 plus I2. So 4 is equal to 2 I1 plus 12 I2. So first equation, 5 is equal to 6 I1 plus I2. Second equation, 2 is equal to I1 plus 6 I2. Multiplying this by minus 6 and adding together, I get, so multiplying this by minus 6, I get minus 12 is equal to minus 6 I1 minus 36 I2. Then adding these two, this 6 I1 get cancelled, 5 minus 12 minus 7, I2 minus 35 I2. So I2 is equal to 7 by I2 is equal to 7 by 35 or 1 by 5, and putting I2 just check somewhere we have gone wrong. I2 is equal to 1 by 5, 10 is 10 is equal to 10 I1 plus 2 into bracket this, so 12 I1 plus 2 I2, 5 is equal to 6 I1 plus I2, and 4 is equal to 10 I2 plus 2 into bracket I1 plus I2, there is also 4 is equal to 2 I1 plus 12 I2, so 2 is equal to I1 plus 6 I2. So if I2 is 1 by 5, then if I put it here, putting 1 by 5 here, 2 is equal to I1 plus 6 by 5. So I1 is equal to 2 minus 6 by 5. 2 minus 6 by 5. I1 is 4 by 5. So I1 is 4 by 5 amperes, I2 is 1 by 5 amperes, and I1 plus I2 is 1 ampere. I1 plus I2 is 1 amperes. So this is the answer. I thought that somewhere there is mistake in correction, but there is no mistake straight away. So assume this point, apply KCL here, assume one current I1, assume another current I2. You can assume any directions. You can assume any directions. If the answer comes negative, then assumed direction is wrong. You have to reverse the direction. So I1 is assumed like this, I2 is assumed like this by common sense. And while assuming, there is no need that you should think in correct direction. You can assume anything random, automatically it will be corrected if the answer is negative. So I1, I2, this I1 plus I2. So once we apply KCL here, means I1 is assumed, I2 is assumed, this is I1 plus I2 is KCL. Then loop 1 KVL, voltage source equal to calculate voltage drops. When you assume the currents, the voltage drops will be in the direction of the current. So 10 I1 will drop here, 10 I2 will drop here, and 2 I1 will drop here. So for loop 1, voltage source equal to voltage drop. Voltage source is 10 and drops are drop across this, drop across this. So 10 is 10 I1 plus 2 into this. In loop 2, 4 is equal to this and this, 10 I2 plus this. And then it is not even scholarship now, it is 7th standard normal question. 2 simultaneous equations and find out. You can solve them by either way. Find out I1, find out I2, and when you find I1 and I2, now in both cases I1 is also positive, I2 is also positive. Since both are positive, our assumptions were correct that the current will flow in this direction. This is the total answer. So current in this, current in the 2 ohm resistor is 1 ampere. So this is the answer. So this is KCL and KVL. So I think this session was just beginning session in which I explained few concepts which were of fundamental nature. This KCL KVL I think is very obvious. There is no need to repeat for it. Any big circuit you can have. In fact, to be very precise, when computers were not there 50 years ago, this superposition theorem, Norton's theorem, Thevenin's theorem, and reduction of the big circuit and finding out the values was required. But now computer is there, so there is no point for us to unnecessarily spend time on this issue. So it can be, only thing is it is needed, but by mastering solving it, you are not going to get any advantage. Just fundamentals are needed. If you are going to develop the some computer application for circuit analysis, then that fundamentals are required. But otherwise, you must know it only. There is no need to master the calculations in circuit theory. So the idea is very clear. So this you can have. Similarly, just you can have one homework, that what I will do is, we will not spend time, only small modification I will make, and in that two things I will keep same. Let this be as it is. This I will keep as 10 ohm, 10 ohm, 5 ohm, 5, or this also 10 ohm, 10 ohm, this is 5 ohm. And the question is, calculate current in 5 ohm resistor. Calculate current in 5 ohm resistor. Now, you are required to have many assumptions. Let this be I1, let this be I2, that is there, but that don't give you the final answer, so you have to also assume I3. Then what is this? This is I1 minus I3. What is this now? This is I1 minus I3, this is I2. So I1 plus I2 minus I3. Is the idea clear? It's very simple. I1 you assume, I2 you assume, I3 you assume. Then this is I1 minus I3. So apply KCL at point A, apply KCL at point B. So I1, I2, this is I1 minus I3, this is I2. So I1 minus I3 plus I2. So this is I1 plus I2 minus I3. Now you have to apply KVL at loop 1, at loop 2, and loop 3 you can have this also, or you can have this also. This is somewhat simpler. So loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, you can have this also. So why we need 3? Because there are 3 variables and 3 unknowns. So I think you should solve this problem and come up with the answer when we meet the next time. We stop here.